Thank you, Mr. Medford, board members. This evening for Accent on Academics, we have Tabb High School will be presenting rockets. Tabb High School physics teacher, Mr. Eric Grube, JROTC Commander Gray Wooten, and their students collaborated on a rocketry experimentation project funded by the Armed Forces Electronics and Communication Association. Students made curriculum connections by launching rockets with varying payloads, collected data, and predicted altitudes with particular focus on national security and 21st century space lift requirements. Ms. Angela Siders, principal of Tabb High School, is now going to introduce tonight's presenters. Ms. Siders.
Good evening, Dr. Shandor and members of the board. I'm Angela Siders, the principal of Tabb High, and I'm very proud of the outstanding 21st century learning opportunities our teachers have integrated into their instruction. Tabb art students are creating online art portfolios using Wix to show off their stunning artwork. They're excited about this due to the fact this tool will benefit them for college or their future professions. Our history students are creating infographics to compare and contrast two different religions and to discuss their conflicts by using Easily. In addition, psychology students are creating study habit videos to be shared with all of THS in preparation for upcoming exams in January. To help students assess their current knowledge in math, English, and science classes, students are using tools such as Plickers, Kahoot, and Socrative. The Charades app seems to be the app of choice for building vocabulary comprehension, while students are creating online storyboards and have accessed storyboardthat.com to capture the essence of Edgar Allan Poe's work. We also have a large number of teachers integrating Office 365 for collaboration amongst peers and for organization of documents. This is just a small sampling of all the innovative learning we are doing at Tabb High School to create a positive impact on our students' multiple intelligences. Which brings us to our focus this evening. I have the pleasure of introducing to you the work of Commander Gray Wooten, NNDCC instructor, and Mr. Eric Grube, physics teacher, along with their students, as we present a transformative learning experience. You will also notice we are proud of the cross-curricular project between physics and NNDCC. At Tabb High, this exceptional 21st century learning opportunity our teachers have integrated into their instruction between the area of physics and aerodynamics has been a blast-off for our students. Enjoy as they will now share the details of this exciting mission.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Last year, during our professional development sessions, Mr. Grube and I discussed the possibility of a transformational learning project that would support cross-curriculum efforts in physics and naval science. After some discussion, we agreed that perhaps a rocket project would be in order, and we submitted a request for a STEM grant with the Armed Forces Communications and Electronics Association chapter at Joint Base Langley. And they graciously awarded us over $2,300 for the project, which we completed last spring. We partnered with a local hobby store using Estes model rockets capable of carrying payloads and purchased all the necessary equipment to have teams of 5 students per rocket in 2 classes. Those were the combined classes, approximately 16 teams for 80 students total. So it was quite a large project that we were able to do between naval science and physics. We used 5-gram metal washers as payload weight and then conducted 5 launches per team, adding weight after each launch and then measuring the height using the same rocket engine. For the naval science curriculum, this covers national security issues as well as naval weapons systems, specifically for missiles, ICBMs, Standard missiles, and Tomahawk cruise missiles, all of which are being used now. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Grube.
Thank you. My name is Eric Grube. I'm the physics teacher at Tabb High School. From the physics angle, every year the we study physics. One of the great pillars of physics is conservation. And the students calculated and tracked the flow of energy from the chemical potential energy in the fuel to the kinetic energy of the rockets rising to the gravitational potential energy of the height of the rockets. And as we mentioned, they calculated the height of the rockets. They built them themselves. They did all the work themselves. And every year when we do these units, I look for ways to include the manual learners and to really have the kids make connections between what they see on the paper to what they can actually see in real life. So the kids assembled the rockets, they took data, they acted as their own safety officers, they even prepped the engines, they hooked them up to the launchers and the batteries, and their faces lit up when the rockets lit up. Along with the excitement of the launches, they got to see some of the equipment failures that we had, how the environmental conditions affected performance, and how out in the field we actually had to make real adjustments to the equipment and to our procedures in real life. They saw how difficult and expensive it is to put things into orbit. And since they did the work, I am going to hand things over to the kids themselves. So, Cadet Bartnikowski.
Good evening. I am Cadet Lieutenant Commander Madison Bartnikowski, the commanding officer of Tabb High School's NNDCC. During this project, I was also in Mr. Grube's physics class. Last year, Commander Wooten's NNDCC and Mr. Grube's physics classes used the funds provided by the Armed Forces Communications and Electronics Association, or better known as AFCEA, to experience the relationship between the mass of a rocket and the height it can reach with the constant amount of energy stored as fuel. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Cadet Chief Petty Officer Jonathan Soto to explain more about the project.
Thank you, Madison. So the secondary purpose of this project was to prompt us, the students, to investigate the history of our space program and the state that it is in now. Many of y'all may remember the explosions and failures we've recently experienced at Wallops Island, the Dragon X program, Spaceship One, and the fact that we're using refurbished Russian equipment to lift our resources into orbit. So not only did we, the students, build and launch our own rockets, but we also saw a direct change in its height when weight was added to it, as we can see in this video clip. Since it costs about $10,000 to lift our resources into orbit, we can really get a feel for how difficult and expensive it is to launch and maintain the satellites required for our GPSs and phones and tablets to work, to control the drones used to gather intelligence to fight ISIS, or to watch the development of nuclear missiles technology in Iran and North Korea, intercept rockets fired at Tel Aviv, and even reach beyond the moon, maybe even to Mars.
This project gave us a chance to both apply what we've calculated in physics and the history we've heard in NNDCC. Above all, it gave us a different perspective, a way of seeing what we thought we knew in a different way. Speaking of a different perspective, we attached cameras to the rockets so we could view Tabb High School from the rocket's perspective. While the camera allowed us to view our school in another light, it also affected our experiment. In the video we are about to present, the shift of the center of gravity is evident as the camera adds extra weight to the rocket. Please direct your attention to the screen and notice how the rocket tilts sideways instead of launching straight up as the previous video did. This project impacted the students because it allowed us to grasp the hardships of launching supplies and rockets into orbit. I actually work at the Virginia Air and Space Center, but even I did not know the expense of each launch. We also learned that we rely on Russia for almost all orbital launches. With this project, I brought the concepts we learned to my job as a museum educator at the Virginia Air and Space Center. Since this project, we have been incorporating more lessons on rockets in order to teach the younger children to allow the younger children to obtain prior knowledge and desire, leading them toward future experimentation and research. Hopefully, with addition to the concepts we have been taught during this project and the curriculum I now teach the children at the Virginia Air and Space Center, we will be able to minimize the cost of sending rockets and supplies into orbit. Thank you very much for allowing us to present our rocket project. If anybody has any more questions, we would be more than willing to answer them.
Did you say, I may have missed it, are there physics students as well as the NNDCC students participating in this? Okay.
Yes, sir.
And we had some crossover, like Cadet Bartnikowski, who was in both classes. So we had, I forgot how many, about half and half. And we had some of the kids who helped facilitate. They would come over, they would assemble the rockets. And then we'd wheel everything out, and they'd hook everything up and send it, so.
So they learned a little bit about physics along the way, which is really interesting. I think it's great. I'd love to be in that class.
Was this your
I
first,
love that kind of stuff. It's just very,
was this your first year to do this
Yes, ma'am.
experiment? Wow, well done. I'm so impressed with all of you. Well done.
My question, how long did it take to do this whole project? How many months? How many weeks? Any idea, roughly?
Procurement took several months to work everything out, and the commander did a whole lot coordinating things with the hobby shop and getting the materials. When the students got involved, it was a total of about 2-3 weeks.
2 or 3 weeks.
Okay,
And then we
okay.
had to put together the plan for the teams and the equipment. And so there was a lot of logistics to work out so that each team could operate, and then they could also work together to collaborate the classes. So that actually was some work too, so that his class and my class could work
Okay,
together.
okay.
And then the hobby store, of course, they loved our business, but we wiped them out on that Estes payload rocket, because I came in and said, yeah, I need about 25 of these rockets. And but they were very happy to help.
Are you both seniors?
No, ma'am, I'm a junior.
I'm a senior, ma'am.
So having been a part of this, what are your aspirations to both, because you have one more year? So what are your aspirations to both of you?
After high school, I plan on attending SUNY Maritime in Bronx, New York, and becoming a United States Marine.
Okay, fantastic.
And after high school, I plan on attending the Corps of Cadets at Virginia Tech and hopefully commissioning into the United States Air Force.
Well, congratulations to both of you.
My question is to the students. Traditionally, you would sit in the classroom and you would learn physics, or you're in your program. Now, you were introduced to this concept of basically some hands-on, this environment of blending some learning together, transformative kind of, you talked about some of the things in the world news. Did things start to connect more by learning this way than just the traditional sitting in the classroom and listening to the lecture and doing the work?
Go.
Yes, sir. In my physics class, we actually learned about this unit maybe a unit or two before we did this project. And although I understood the unit, it was really nice having this experiment because it allowed us to actually see what energy and rockets and all that conservation of energy and mass actually did for physics. So it was really nice just connecting all that.
And the lectures on naval science and the current events that we were studying at the time, it really lets us know how difficult it is, because as being high school students, we don't grasp numbers really well when it comes to money and everything. So it really put us into perspective on the difficulty.
Right. And I love the fact that technology now exists where you can strap a camera onto a rocket of that and send it up and get the footage to show us and to show others. And then, of course, what you learned from putting the weight where it was on the rocket. Congratulations. Y'all did a really great job. Love the presentation.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I just said,
Yes, Mr. Minton.
were you able to do the rocket launching during regular class time, or would y'all have to have extra time to do that?
It was during our regular class time, sir.
Regular? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
We did have one weather delay.
we've seen those before.
This is just one more comment. This is this applied physics. I mean, a lot of students are afraid of physics, let's face it. But when you see applied physics like this and lessons like this and this transformative learning, if there was a way to just kind of let some of those kids know, hey, this is the kind of stuff we do, this really cool stuff, you probably would get some more enrollment in some of these physics classes. So I just, hats off to you, and as well as the NNDCC, you see kind of the stuff that y'all are doing too. So
It's nice to see the partnership between the two groups.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you.